Hi, welcome. There's a controversy going on social media that there was some trolls, memes, especially targeting BJP Minister Nitin Gadkari ji. Of course, this only social media allegation as of now, but there was a confusion with the E20 controversy also involving Nitin Gadkari ji. The companies linked to his family are producing ethanol and all that. These kind of controversies are there. Now the proposal is that the government of India want to replace ethanol in place of petrol 20%. That they're calling it as E20. But experts are saying that there is a mileage issue. E20 will give lesser mileage, less cost, lesser mileage. Earlier it is 100 rupees, 100 kilometers. Now we are mixing ethanol that gives only 80 kilometers, but it is on 80 rupees. You should charge 80 rupees, right? You are charging 100 rupees. 80 rupees wala that gives 80 kilometers charging 100 rupees. This is another kind of, that's instead of increasing the price, if you increase the price, the people will think that petrol price increased. So instead of that, let us produce ethanol which is less costlier than that and they charge the same price. That's another mode of increasing the price. That's actually social media people are talking about it. Definitely it falls impact on water vehicle. Calling it as E20. Of course, E refers to ethanol and 20 refers to 20% of the ethanol. What is this ethanol actually? The ethanol, they will make, they manufacture this ethanol with sugarcane, molasses, corn, rice, and other agricultural biomass, whatever it is there. With that biomass, they are making ethanol. But we have the technology of making within India that the petrol we have to buy from outside, but ethanol we can make it from within India. So the government is saying that we will reduce the import cost and we can reduce the vehicle emissions also. Pollution and all we can reduce. This is the argument by the government. 100% petrol, if earlier the 100% petrol, it used to give 34.2 mj per liter of energy. But this E20 contains only 32.7 mj per liter. That means it gives a lesser energy. Then obviously, but there is lesser energy. As I say, for example, like if petrol it runs 20 kilometers, but if E20 it runs only 19 kilometers per hour, 1 kilometer is lesser than the petrol. But you are charging the same price. There will be around 3 to 5% of mileage loss. Theoretically, there is 3 to 5% of mileage loss. Manufacturing cost also, it's almost same as petrol. Netizens are demanding the government, sir, why are you doing this? The government is telling that it will reduce the oil imports. 80%, 85% of its crude oil actually we are buying from outside the country. So ethanol we are manufacturing here. Why to depend on the crude oil imports? That's what actually government is arguing. And also the other side, they're saying that we can encourage sugarcane, molasses, maize, corn farmers, we can encourage because we are using it with that. And there is a lower emission argument, lower emissions, pollution and all. Okay, say for example, it's okay, we can make ethanol here. Let us completely ban petrol and use ethanol. Do we have that 100% capacity of producing ethanol? They don't have 100% capacity of producing ethanol. The biggest challenge is the manufacturing companies. They have to manufacture engine in such a way that 20% ethanol and 80% petrol, in combination of this, the engine should be compatible with this. Now it is a challenge for the vehicles to manufacture. That is another difficulty. Fuel pump, engine software, fuel line, seals, and all these are going to be issue now. But here question comes that, are we not using any ethanol earlier? Earlier there is, we are using it. Something like, if someone is making tea, there is 80% of milk and then there is 1 spoon of tea powder, right? Same like even earlier also, there is some 5% ethanol is there, and that slowly they increased to, step by step they increased to 10%. Then now the government is talking 20%. This replacement will lead to difficulties to the older vehicles because the repair slowly, the Their rubber hoses will be difficult to buy. Repair centers will reduce. Certain metal parts, some spare parts shortage will come because slowly when the transformation is taking place, the older technology related all the spare parts will not be available, and then it's going to be another problem. Welcome. The government's decision to combine or make fuel with the combination of ethanol and petrol. But now the government is talking about E20 concept. What is E20? They want to mix 20% of ethanol to petrol, 80% of petrol and 20% of ethanol. Why the government is making this decision? Because the ethanol is more available in India than petroleum. There's no guarantee that. Even how much we have to spend in producing ethanol, and the same amount of same cost will be we have to buy from petrol. But the government is arguing that we are making ethanol in India, so the petroleum we have to depend on foreign countries. So instead of depending on foreign countries, why can't we use ethanol in India? Because we are making it. Depend on local production than the foreign production. This is the argument they are doing. But who is actually doing this manufacturing ethanol? Whatever the projects in India, only 4 or 5 people are getting, right? Those 4 or 5 people, this ethanol also they may produce in the days ahead. But it's homemade, so the government is preferring. There's no problem with that, preferring the homemade. But here the question comes is that, but ethanol is less cost to manufacture comparatively with buying petroleum. Making a methanol is cheaper in India, then you should reduce the petrol price, right? They're not reducing the petrol price. Earlier, they used to have just 10% of ethanol and 90% of petrol. Actually, they started with 5%, 5% of ethanol, 95% petrol. Later, it shifted to 10% of ethanol and then 90% of petroleum. Now the government want to mix 20% of ethanol and then they want to make 80% of petrol. So that's why they're calling it as E20. This is the controversy now. We don't know whether there is a possibility of going for E30, E40, E40, even E100, even E100 also possible. They want to slowly replace petroleum with ethanol. The vehicles that run by petrol, they have to manufacture which are compatible with ethanol now. Slowly, step by step, they want to replace with ethanol. That's what we understand. It looks good, but only thing is that why they're not reducing the cost. Before 2003, pure petrol. 2003 to 2015, there is something called E5 means 5% of ethanol and 95% of petrol. What about the vehicles which are purely manufactured for which are compatible for petrol now? 100% compatible with only petrol. There are some vehicles, they're only compatible with only petrol. Now you are mixing ethanol. It's going to be another problem. So this is the controversy going on. This is another controversy. This is one controversy. The other controversy is that there are some people alleging that these ethanol companies or some related companies that belongs to Nitin Gadkari ji, that's why they're taking this decision to benefit their family members. That is the allegation. And Nitin Gadkari ji, he denies all these allegations. He says that there's nothing family here, that we are taking a decision for the country. That's what we understand. Thank you. Namaskar.